Improving your life isn't going to help you for the most part, and you probably found that you've been in a cycle of constant improvement, yet you don't seem to be getting anywhere for some reason. And there's a very, very important reason for this. You need to understand this or you won't move forward whatsoever. So if you have played the game of FIFA, or EAFC as it's called now, you will notice that you have cards like this. And cards like this resemble yourself, essentially, and kind of the characteristics you have, the skills, the traits, and the beliefs that you may possess. Now, there's categories for these beliefs, such as, for example, if we were to conceptualize of this in real life, it would be something like communication skills, strength, intellectuality, intelligence or creativity, money, appearance, and just a bunch more. And within these skills, within communications, for example, we have tonality, we have style, we have vocal tone, we have assertiveness, we have debating skills, and we have a bunch more which I didn't write out because there's just so many. And if you can imagine, there's so many intricacies to this, because in FIFA obviously it's like shooting and pace and physicality and these kind of stuff, but if we just imagine you as a whole, there's probably a subset of skills where obviously you have the ones that are in FIFA. So if I were to draw out all of these categories, then essentially we'd get to shit like jet skiing and juggling and I don't know, like a bunch of things like calisthenics, and also just vision and balancing skills. And there's so many that we can't really think of right now, but there are a bunch of these things in reality. And the thing is, you're not focused on the right one most of the time, because we as humans are very, very bad at problem solving. If we knew what problem to solve for, we would be golden. We would be already, like, we would have already solved it. So how do you understand these things? Well, I want to introduce a topic of meta skills and non-meta skills. So meta skills are the ones which are very, very important, obviously, because not every skill is created equal. Not every trait or belief, or not every characteristic is created equal. But for example, communications, that will pretty much matter in every aspect of life. So if you go into your job and you want a raise, you need to communicate that. You need to be assertive, and you've probably realized that not every single worker who's the best gets their promotion. Why? Because they don't play the political game as they should. And although maybe that's suboptimal and that's not the way things should be, that's just how the way is. That's just how life is. So if you don't get into your boss's favorite person books, you're not going to get promoted. And if you can't communicate yourself and be assertive in a way which you're required to be, then you're just going to be cooked. And that's the truth of it. If you want to communicate that you are attracted to someone and maybe they should consider dating you, you also need to communicate that. Now, obviously, that's not just talking to them, but it's also body language. That's also assertiveness. That's also these kind of stuff that we're not really talking about. That's why there's so many skills in here. I wrote out 5, but there's probably like 30, 40, maybe hundreds even, within this one thing of communication. So communication is extremely important. Now, there's random niche hobbies that I didn't even write out, that like jet skiing, juggling, calisthenics. And these are what I usually call external desires, because, yeah, sure, like some people actually really, really want to juggle. Like, sure, there's one guy out there whose purpose is to fucking juggle. He's a professional clown or something. Okay, like, cool, bro, cool, I get it. But for the most part, these are external desires, because I was at the gym a few weeks ago and I saw a guy doing calisthenics, and he was doing these planche push-ups and human flags and this kind of shit. And I saw some, like, I got insecure. I was like, oh damn, those are so cool, man. I want to do those. I'm kind of strong, but I can't do those. And I saw some girl looking at him and I was like, oh damn, I wish I had that. And I was like, wait, hold on, what the fuck? Like, I just came home and I was like planning out the desire in my head and how I was going to indulge in it. How I was going to actually do like fucking calisthenics in my routine for no apparent reason. Like, it's nowhere near close to my actual goal in life, what I actually want to achieve. I just never really thought of this before, and now for some external reason, for some random guy doing it, I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do this now. I'm just going to be a calisthenics athlete from now, yeah. I'm just going to practice this. And I'm not saying it's like not a cool desire. Like, sure, like sometimes you can indulge in it and have a little fun, but it's nowhere near conducive to my goals. I don't actually want to do this. I just got a bit insecure. And I think a lot of us actually do this, where we have battles in our lives which aren't that important. Like, we're objectively in a season of doing something, like season of working out and getting stronger, season of earning money and acquiring like wealth and status. And we don't optimize for it correctly. We're just like, oh shit, I saw some guy online do this hobby and now I'm going to pick it up as well. Why? Why do we do this? And you really need to spot these, because not every battle is created equal. There's so much more to be gained by leveling up specific skills and neglecting others. You can't get to the maximum with everything, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about how to improve these skills, but first of all, which skills to improve, because that's incredibly important to understand which battles are the ones that you need to win. And to tie this point in finally, there's a very, very non-famous battle in World War II, for example. There's a bunch of these, like the battles in the Atlantic, for example, were very important, were to determine who gets the supplies and whose ships just fucking sink. But another battle was the Battle of the Caucasus, and this area had a lot of oil, and Germany really wanted it. Now, this was all a part of the USSR. This is an outdated map that I drew. This is the map, I think, yeah, it should be this today, to my knowledge at least. And the thing is, this area was not that well controlled, and Germany really, really wanted it. And what the USSR did was they scorched the earth, they burnt the shit down, and then they backed off and retreated, because they realized that with the huge battles on the Eastern Front, they're just not going to be able to defend all of the areas. So they just neglected this one. They were like, okay, we're not going to defend it, but we're going to make sure that Germany do not take the oil from this area, or they will be much, much stronger. And you probably don't even know about this battle, because it's somewhat subtle and smaller compared to the other ones, but it's very, very important. And that's exactly how we should be treating ourselves, essentially, because there's some parts of ourselves that we don't realize that even exist, but they're super important, like improving these things and paying attention to them, because if we don't, people will get ahead of us, so we won't get our desires. And as I said, this is like a meta skill, this battle, essentially, because it's very, very important, just like communications, and if we don't level it up, we will suffer the consequences. Now, you might be asking, okay, tell me what works. What should I level up? What should I not level up? What should I neglect? What should I improve upon? And the answer to that is, I don't fucking know. Everything works. Every single skill has a place in life where it is the most valuable skill. If you're in a juggling competition, that's probably the most valuable skill. If you're in a model fucking Paris Fashion Week, appearance is probably the most important one. But the thing is, for you, specifically, there's going to be more important ones than others, and especially in different situations. But one example for this is, there's this guy. His name is Andrea Pirlo, and if you know him, he's a famous Italian footballer, and he won the World Cup, he won the Champions League like a bunch of times, if I'm not mistaken, and he's a very, very, very famous midfielder, and he's retired now, but he was very, very good. He was especially known for his passing ability. He was a magician when it came to the ball and getting it to his teammates. He had incredible vision and passing and this kind of stuff. But the thing is, he was extremely slow. What Pirlo did was he noticed that, okay, my job in this team is to be a conduit, is to get the ball and to pass it on to my teammates as well as I possibly can. And that doesn't really require pace. I don't need to be fast to do that. So what he said that was, okay, I'm going to shoot kind of well for when I get in front of a goal, or okay, I'm going to have incredible vision, I'm going to pass the ball, I'm going to practice that so much in training, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be physically strong so I can't be knocked over. However, pace, that's not really that important for me. So I'm kind of going to neglect it because I'm not the type of player that should focus on pace. And this could be, for your equivalent, could be you're an electrician. So you should focus on your trade skill. You should focus on your ability to market and be good in business to make sure that you're getting the best amount of money for the work that you put in, the highest return on investment. You can make sure that you have very good communication skills. You can make sure that you're intelligent and you're moving in ways which benefit you. But you could tell yourself that I don't really need incredible amounts of creativity. So I'm not going to give myself too much of a creative outlet because I don't really feel an urge to do that, and also my job doesn't require that of me. And I'm not going to develop any fucking niche skills like jet skiing and juggling and this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to focus on my appearance that much. I'm going to do it to be marketable. I'm going to have a logo on my shirt. I'm going to keep it clean. But I'm not really going to have a cute fucking haircut to market myself like these teenage boys do, because that's not important for me. And that's incredibly reasonable, because now all you've done is you've freed up a bunch of your time. Because if you imagine an electrician who's still insecure and trapped in this fucking high school mindset of I have some acne and I need to put fucking makeup on it and I need to get the cutest haircut possible and I need to have the cleanest, best designed shirt and shit, like that person is going to waste hours on things that aren't actually that high return on investment in his craft. And this, like, you might think this is super obvious now that I'm explaining this to you, but a lot of people actually do this. Like, a lot of people take stuff from other people like take inspiration from what they're doing when it's not really conducive to their growth. Like, for example, if I do this marketing thing and I do this YouTube channel and I do this kind of thing and I see someone doing fucking calisthenics, like, where do I get growth from calisthenics? I'm not going to flex on people and get status for it. Not that you should do that in the first place. I'm not going to do that when I'm working in my marketing agency or with my YouTube channel. You're not going to see that I have calisthenics things. I don't really feel a desire to do that in my soul, so I'm not really going to feel fulfilled about myself if I do calisthenics. And I'm not here to shit on calisthenics again. Like, in some situations it can be very useful if you feel like that's fun for you and you think that that's a good way to train, if you go on competitions, or like there's a bunch of use cases for it. But for me, that's not useful. Just like looking pretty and having a fucking clean shaven cute haircut is not useful for the electrician. So just pick your battles very, very wisely. You know, I used to wonder this for a long time. How do these people get rich and successful when they're still doing the bad habits, when they still have vices? And you probably have heard of this concept before, like the druggy billionaire who still does coke and shit like this. And you've seen them in the films, like they still do Quaaludes and stuff, like in The Wolf of Wall Street. You've probably heard of the virgin fucking geek crypto nerd who's just researched his crypto coins, and he's driving a Lambo now, but he doesn't know how to talk to girls, and he just plays fucking video games all day. Or even alcoholic conquerors like Alexander the Great, who achieved pretty much the biggest accomplishment ever, conquering most of the known world at like what, the age of 19 or some shit. So these people who are objectively like very, very high performers, they still have vices. They still do the bad things, which are obviously like not good for you, not healthy, and not pretty much sustainable for you. So they still do the bad things, yet they succeed. And that's exactly because they're not focusing on, oh, I need to improve myself. I have this bad habit and now I'm going to make it all about that bad habit. Because they understand that for them to get their goal, they don't need to be at 99. They don't need to be a max for every single statistic that there is. And the reason for this is that not all habits are created equal. Some habits are much more important for us to do than others, and we should ask every single time that we try to introduce a habit into our calendar or into our routine is, how will this help me? Habits aren't goals, and that's very, very fucking important. And I need you to ingrain that in your mind right now. What habits are catalysts to make you more likely to get to your goal. I repeat, habits are just catalysts. They're not the goal itself. A bunch of self-improvement geeks will start going to the gym, they'll start doing cold showers, and they'll be like, okay, I went to the gym and I had a cold shower today. That means this day is already good. Their goal is literally to, I don't know what your fucking goals are, man. Like, get a girlfriend, or get money online, or be a bit more healthy. And sure, like, with be a bit more healthy, this is objectively good, but like, this is nothing. Do you understand? Like, going to the gym usually isn't like an end goal. That's usually something to help to keep yourself more mentally sane, mentally healthy, physically sane and physically healthy. Cold showering has like immune effects and it increases your dopamine a bit. But the thing is these stuff don't actually get you anywhere just by themselves. Now you're prepared for the day. Now you've had a good workout, you have blood flowing in your body, now you have increased dopamine amounts, and now is the time to work. Like, you've only done these things essentially to get to work. Now, of course, there's a caveat to where if your goal is just to be a bit more healthy, like, sure, this is like good progress, but the thing is that this in itself, for most people, is bullshit. Okay? This isn't actually conducive to your goal whatsoever, especially if your goal is to get money. Doing shit like this is stupid, and this is another example. And if this is interesting to you, by the way, how to think about this and how to compile your morning routine, I made a video on this on how to actually make the scientifically perfect, godlike morning routine for yourself. Then watch that right now. I should be putting up like a card on screen or some shit. It's first link in the description anyway. So what I was saying is, if you add a habit like walking, for example, which is super popular right now because it activates your default mode network a bit more, and obviously it's like very good for you because it's the most natural exercise that humans have done for thousands and thousands of years. You can add it to your routine, sure, but like, is it helping? Is it helping you whatsoever? So what does walking do? Let's critically think about this, critically analyze it, okay? For you, is walking, the habit of walking, beneficial? Is it favorable? So you walk. Well, okay, cool. You walk. What does walking do? Okay, burns a bit of calories. Nice. Gets you out of the house. Okay. You maybe get a bit more ideas. Okay, nice. Also, it takes quite a lot of time. Okay. You can't be working while you're walking. Okay, but you can be reading audiobooks. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Is it conducive to your goal? Well, it depends on what your goal fucking is. Like, of course, that's what this whole video is about. So if your goal is getting progress in some sort of creative work, in some sort of artistic endeavor, it probably is good. because you're getting some exercise in, which means you don't have to overtrain yourself with other things. Okay, maybe after eating it helps your metabolism. Okay, that could also be nice, just in a general health aspect, so you don't rot your health while you're focused on something else. Okay, that could be nice. Also, you get ideas while you're out walking. That's what most people say, that when they're bored, when their default mood network inside of their brain is active, they get the best ideas, and that could be very, very beneficial for us if we're in this stage in life. However, if you're an electrician, you're probably burning enough calories in the field, aren't you? And sure, like walking after eating a meal is still healthy, but you could just go do your job after eating a meal. And also the creative side of things and having more ideas most likely isn't going to be that useful if you're an electrician, because your work is probably quite obvious and quite dialed in. At least that's what I'm expecting. That's what I think of electricians. Like, you have this job and you have to do it and go there and actually do the job. You don't have to have insane artistic ideas of what you're going to write into your novel, or how you're going to shoot your video and shit like this. So essentially, this, if you're an electrician, is useless. But if you're walking to get creative ideas, if you have an artistic channel or something like that, it's incredibly useful. So how do you detect what's very useful for you in life, and how do you disregard the things that aren't? Because we need to drop some battles. Just like in the example with the USSR scorching the earth before the Germans could get there, we need to understand that some battles are just not as important as others, and some battles are extremely important. So in the final section of this video, we will understand what battles we need to prioritize in order to grow as fast as possible. So the way you understand which habits are the meta habits for you, which are the most important, and differentiating those from those which are less important, which you can drop, at least for now, is by actually understanding what your priority is. I like to use this phrase called the season of life. And the season of life basically says, in this season of life, I am focused on this one thing. In this season of life, in this era, I guess some people like to say, I am only optimizing for growth in this one area, because this ties into the concept of essentialism, which basically says if you move with maximum amount of energy in one direction and keep the rest of the things at bay at like an okay level, you will overall just grow more as a person. Because if your attention is scattered all over the place, you're having random fleeting thoughts about this and that, and I gotta do this and that and everything, you're kind of all over the place. Now, this doesn't mean you can't hang out with friends, this doesn't mean you can't eat healthy, this doesn't mean you can't go to the gym, because the thing is, if you want to work the best, you probably still have to go to the gym in a funny way. That keeps you disciplined, that keeps you healthy, that keeps you sane. That also gives you a bit of social connection. If you don't meet with your friends, you're probably going to be touch-starved. You're probably going to be unhealthy in your brain. You're probably going to have random desires throughout the day to talk to this person and rekindle your relationship with this person. So all of the time, these are like meta things that you need to do. This solely means whenever I add a habit to my routine, whenever I set myself out to do something, I ask myself, will this help me with my goal? The thing we just talked about, okay? This doesn't mean you can't do the rest of the things. This just means if it doesn't help you directly or indirectly with your goal, then it's a bad thing, okay? One thing I like to tell myself is keep your hands on the wheel. Just like when you start your driving lessons, this is what the driving instructor tells you all the time. Just keep your hands on the wheel, because then you can react to whatever happens to you. Just like when you start playing football, the coach usually tells you just keep your eyes on the ball, eyes on the ball, eyes on the ball. That's why you can't miss what's happening in the play. There's always going to be one ball in play, so you're just going to pay attention to that. So whenever this gets kind of forgotten and you have conflicting interests, that's when you go in a rut. That's when you lose sight of what's important. That's why you need to keep your hands on the wheel at all times. A real life example of this would be if you're keeping consistent and you're going on your routine, and the first day you get 5 hours of work, then 6 hours of work, third day you get 6 again, then you get 7, and then you have a slight dip in performance, you go back to 4, but it's okay because you're still getting like quite a bit of work done. This is like deep work and actually focused work, and you're proud of yourself because you're actually getting closer to your goal, which in this sense would probably be money, or at least business growth, getting a audience, or getting your offer established, or just something within the realms of business, right? And then you relapse on video games. You start playing with your friends, you get maybe a new patch, a new update dropped, a new game that you just had to buy, GTA 6, whatever. Then you understand that your work actually drops because video games become the priority. On day 6 you play for 2 hours, then you work for 2 hours on day 6, then you don't work whatsoever on day 7, and you work just 1 hour on day 8. Then you have the realization, oh fuck, video games took over my life, I relapsed, what happens now? Okay, you can go 2 ways. You can go with the goal being back to what it was. You can go back to the one thing, which is I gotta work more. You can keep your hands on the wheel as you originally told yourself that you would do as you desire. Or you can switch the goal to, from working more, I gotta play less video games. I gotta play less video games. Playing video games is the problem now. Do you see where we're going with this? So if you go back to the FIFA card example, we just went to a goal which wasn't even the goal in the first place. It was just a problem. It was just a symptom, of the real problem. So we're just solving for a symptom. The main problem is not working enough. Now we're just like, oh fuck, we're filling up the time that we're not working with video games, okay? And now we go into this problem-solving mode sometimes. This is what I do, for example. Instead of going back to this, I gotta work more. And if I still work this amount of time, if I still work 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, if I still have this time, and I'm still playing video games, who the fuck is anyone to tell me otherwise? Who the fuck is anyone to tell me that that's wrong? If I can pull it off, if I can, just like Alexander the Great was fucking drunk on red wine every single time he went on a conquest, if I can play video games for that long every single day and still be productive, why not? Now the problem is that this stuff is very, very high in dopamine, and that will leave you into a trough, which will leave you to be demotivated, so it's very hard to do. But if you can, I mean, more power to you. I'm just saying that it's unlikely. But if you can, that's not a problem. So video games themselves aren't really the problem. They're just symptoms of you not working enough, and then you start doing something else, and you're maybe in like a downward spiral in mental health and stuff. So if you go back to, I gotta play less video games, and you start going up with the solution, okay, I'm gonna focus on going outside more. I'm going to focus on reading more. I'm going to focus on filling up my time so I don't play video games. I'm going to focus on these tips and tricks these YouTubers told me. I'm going to download these website blockers. I'm going to hyperfixate on not playing video games. I'm going to watch a podcast on not playing video games. I'm going to research it. I'm going to uninstall these things. I'm going to install like website blockers so I can't read about the fucking thing. And now your life has been taken over by not playing video games. And you're just focused on this thing that isn't even the priority. If you just kept your hands on the fucking wheel, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just not working enough. I'm just going to start working now. I'm just going to make sure that I realign myself. I go back and revisit the motivation that I initially had to work. What kind of purpose am I having? What's the kind of journey that I'm on? Why is it important to me that I work in the first place? Who am I helping? How am I helping them? How can I make my work more important? Or at least feel more important? How can I make it more fun? I gotta work more. This is the problem that you should be solving for. If you start solving for something else, your output will vary. And although you're not playing video games in either, because, or maybe you're playing video games in this one, but the chances are you're not going to, right? You're going to tell yourself, I gotta work more. And then you're just like, oh yeah, this video game thing took over my life. I'm just gonna drop it. You understand how that's not hyperfixating on video games or just something like this. You're still in the paradigm of I gotta work more. I gotta work because that's the one thing right now. And then you start working more. If we go with a different example, because I'm dragging this on a bit right now, I feel. If we go into the example of I gotta get stronger, right? What you do is you go to the gym quite frequently, you train, you research nutrition and shit like this, you go shopping in a healthy area, healthy things, maybe you research what exercises you need to do, you go with a friend, you have chats about work. Not work, different example now. You have chats about going to the gym and training, and your life is focusing around this, but then you relapse and you're like, I gotta, I don't know, stop going out so much. I keep drinking alcohol, and then you're hungover and you're not working. And yeah, although like alcohol might be the problem, going into a fucking retreat for 7 days might be worse for your gym gains than just cutting it down and only going once a week. You understand how if you're on a fucking retreat, you can't train whatsoever. You don't have the equipment, you don't have the proper nutrition, you don't have anything, because now you're hyperfixating on not drinking anymore. You're hyperfixating on not going out. If you just told yourself, okay, I'm going to set up these systems in my life which make sure that I train every single day, you're going to be like, okay, I can't be hungover. So because I want to train as much as possible, I can't be hungover. So because we still have the goal as the main thing, we're keeping our hands on the wheel, we understand that this thing is bad. We understand that this thing, which is video games in this example, or drinking in the other example, is bad. We didn't solve it by focusing on the problem itself or the symptom itself, like video games or drinking. We fixed it by keeping our hands on the wheel and realizing that we need to train more. And if we want to train more, we can't be drunk. We can't be hungover. So just keep your hands on the wheel, because every single time I lose track of what's important and I go on some degenerate route, like playing a bunch of video games or drinking or shit like this, it's because I'm solving for the wrong problem. And afterwards, I still feel like I'm not working enough because I'm just filling my time up with bullshit. Right? oftentimes when you still have like the impulse to game and you have poor mental health and you're not working enough, you stop video games and then you do something else. You start browsing like TikTok content and Instagram reels and shit like this way too much. So if you still have like the root problem there and you're not solving for that and you're solving for the symptom, which is, oh, I'm just spending too much time on video games, when the problem is mental health and not focusing on work, you're just going to replace it. And instead of drinking, in the gym example, you're going to start, instead of going out with your friends, you're going to start, I don't know, some other thing, some other hobby to give you this false sense of progress. Just like the gym geek who goes, just like the self-improvement geek who goes to the gym and has cold showers and tells himself he's productive despite the fact that he's not working. He's like this example, he's working fucking, oh sorry, that's the good example. He's like this example and he's not doing fuck all when his priority is to work. Just like in this example. So that's that. To tie this in, if you're still not aware of what you need to do and what habits are important for you and what beliefs, what traits and what skills you need to level up and which you need to neglect, then what you need to do is ask ChatGPT. Literally, I do this quite often and it's very, very good, especially if you have the premium plan but you don't need it essentially. You can talk to it on your phone, or if you're on Windows, you can press your Windows key and H and you can open up this voice chat with it. And you can literally just chat with it. You can be like, hey, I'm feeling this type of way. I'm right now in a state where this is important for me. I currently have these kind of beliefs, I do these kind of things, this is what my routine looks like. The more information you can give it, the better. You can literally talk for 10 minutes and it will give you an output based on that. So what I usually do is I tell it as much as I possibly can and I ask it these questions. What does this person look like? What kind of habits do I need to introduce into my schedule? What does my routine look like? And also, what are the beliefs of this person? What are the traits of this person? And what are the skills of this person? And this will shed light immensely on what you need to level up and what you don't. You should also ask it the negative of this. What do I need to drop? What beliefs do I need to shed? What kind of habits do I need to eliminate? What kind of traits and skills that are not important for this person? And how can I become him? How can I reaffirm these kind of beliefs, habits, traits, etc., about myself? How can I become this person? And it will give you very, very interesting feedback. And just remember, this conversation is a dialogue. You can give it feedback if you don't really agree with what it says, because sometimes it does yap and sometimes it isn't entirely conducive to your goal. That's another thing that you need to remember, is that you know yourself more than anyone does. And that's kind of the false dichotomy of taking advice on the internet, because although some people might be objectively like wiser than you and might have done things you've already done, you want to do at least, it might not be exactly the way you want to do it or exactly the thing that you want to do, and you maybe shouldn't always take their advice. So this is just the video. This is what you need to do. You need to prioritize one thing. You need to understand, how does the person look like who got there? How does the person look like? What do they believe? What kind of characteristics do they have? And what isn't that important? What kind of battles can I ignore? What kind of battles can I come back to and fight another day? Or what can I just totally ignore? You don't need to fight every single battle in your life, and that's fine. But find the most important things you need to level up and focus on those.